Hello and welcome to another episode of Midday Masterclass. This is a unique initiative where we learn the nuances of the sport straight from the master. While in the previous episodes we have tried to understand the skill sets of the game, this time we will be looking closely at the technical aspects of the sport. We have a guest today, Mr. M.R. Singh, a former international umpire and also an umpire educator from Mumbai. Mr. Singh, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Before we delve into the Q&As and learning about the technical side of umpiring, Mr. M.R. Singh has been he started his career in 1978 as an umpire. He qualified as a first class umpire in 1982, and in 1986 he was nominated to the All India panel. He has umpired in 10 one-day internationals, and he was the fourth official for the third test match between India and South Africa at Kolkata in December 2004. He retired from umpiring in November 2009, but has been actively involved in umpire education in India. He recently released a book, The Laws of Cricket Simplified. This is the second edition. Mr. Singh, can we have your thoughts on this book? What made you to simplify the laws of the game?
I have always felt that because since the time I first was appointed by the NCA to teach the laws of cricket in Bombay, I had it in my mind that the laws need to be a lot simpler for the layperson to understand. The club cricketer, the layperson, the student, you ask anybody who to pick up that blue book, and I bet he's going to throw it away in about 15 minutes unless he's got some serious interest in it. Otherwise, it is not something that will attract him. So I set about doing this after I quit my job and all that lockdown happened. I said, "Chalo, ye project zara kar le to simplify this, make it available." Like if you see my the preface of my book, I have outlined what I set out to do actually. The target is the base level of an aspiring umpire or the base level cricketer who needs to know the laws of cricket. My belief is that knowing the laws of cricket improves you as a cricketer also. For that reason, I believe that every coaching camp should have at least 2 or 3 sessions on the laws of cricket. They don't need to know all of them, but at least a lot of them. And especially the captain, vice captain, coach needs to know a lot more because they need to know the technicalities of the game. The game is getting very technical now as far as run rates are concerned and all those things, permutations and combinations. And there are the simplest of things players don't know. That was been my experience. Just because the laws they need to be made more user friendly. That is what I set out to do.
That's a great thought. I would like to get in my colleague Subodh Mayure. He has some questions on umpiring.
Yes,
Subodh.
Sure.
Though there are very few exceptions of former international cricketers or first-class cricketers who became official umpires, but generally former players prefer to coach or do commentary. According to what is the reason that players may not prefer to be official games as an umpire, and what do you think that do you think that cricketers should take umpiring as a profession after their retirement?
Yes, I think because if I were a recruiter of umpires, I would look for the future umpires in the cricketing lot from the past cricketers, because they have been in the middle and they know some of the tricks of the trade, sort of. I would, but that is not necessarily so that they will make good umpires. They still have to go through the ground. Now, coming to your question about why they have been going into coaching and commentary, because that is a lot easier than umpiring is. Umpiring is a bit of a grind. For which they might not be ready to go through. You rise up slowly. There should be no shortcuts for any former player because I know the level of knowledge they have about the laws. There can be no shortcuts because knowledge forms the base of good umpiring. And also that you know very well that till recently, umpiring did not pay as well as the commentator's job, and money attracts everybody. So now I think you can see more and more cricketers coming into umpiring as they are. But it has to be dealt with carefully. They have to be given the knowledge and they should be given. There is no substitute for experience, in my view. You can't push somebody into the deep end of the pool and there might be calamities. We have seen such things happening. Some former player umpires have been pushed up too early. You don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have thought they would last a decade or two. They don't last too long.
Your views on using technology for DRS and your thoughts about umpire's call.
See, I started umpiring during the time when the third umpire started coming into vogue. The third umpire. First, it started with lines and all that, and then it slowly expanded to other things. Hit wicket aa gaya usme, then line calls aa gaye, all of the boundary line calls aa gaye. Earlier, it was only the line which could, he had to restrict himself to the line, not look at the entire decision. But these things evolved. And this was a question I used to be asked early in my career. Don't you think that everybody used to be asked? Even reporter and all also had to answer this question. Do you think it is good for cricket? Do you think it undermines the authority of the umpire? Was one of the favorite questions. Now we used to think about it and answer these questions. But in one game, this question was answered for me very, very firmly, whether it is good for the game or not. Ultimately, the purpose is that we should be giving right decisions. Now, this was in Australia versus South Africa match, which I was umpiring at Faridabad. Two decisions came our way: run out and run out. One was at my colleague's end. He was at the bowler's end. He moved, and there was a quick run out, and I could see him. He was visibly hesitating to go for the third umpire. Visibly hesitating to go for the third umpire, but he did go for the third umpire, and it was given out. And it happened to me that close decision there at my end when I was a square leg. I believe Damien Fleming was here. It went in a flash. The batsman went in a flash, and given to myself without the help of technology, my decision was out. But I went to the third umpire, and he ruled it not out. And the guy standing at square leg did ask me, "What do you think? What would you have given otherwise?" I said, "I would have given that out. I would have given it not out like that." So what happened is these two decisions made it clear in my mind that yes, we are on to a good thing. It also happened in another game that I was the third umpire at Nagpur. These were just the initial stages where the decision was so close that now see we third umpire had little to do during our time, so we could watch the match on the field, and when somebody went like this, we would come to the screen and look at the screen. So looking at the match with the naked eye, there was a close run out, and I said in fact I said it aloud. That looks not out, okay. And when I went actually to give the decision, I gave the guy out because it was very close, just a matter of an inch or so. So we are on to a good thing. The use of technology will increase, and the ultimate aim is that we should be giving right decisions. That is what they want actually. Now coming to your question about part of your question about umpire's call. See, what happened was umpire's call initially started with the umpire needs to give some decision there because he's evaluated. There is an appeal. He just can't go do this and get away with popping off the decision onto this. He's being evaluated for that particular decision also. So he tells the match referee or the third umpire, my decision on this is out or not out. This later, it was only for evaluation purposes earlier. And this later on got changed to, see, the logic behind it is not wrong. I have given a decision out based on what I see on the field of play without benefit of any technology, split second decision. I have given that out. The logic behind it says that umpire's call says that if the third umpire cannot find anything concrete to reverse my decision, whether out or not out, we should stand by the field umpire's decision. The logic is correct. But a lot of acrimony has happened over umpire's play where the same thing can be out or not out depending on what the call is. And why are we going to the third umpire is that we think that he might have erred. The third umpire, the field umpire might have erred. He doesn't have the help of technology. I would like to see a modification in this, in the sense that if you look at umpiring, what we do on the field of play, we have very clear idea. I mean, I have always followed it very clearly that from your given position in the field of play at 25 yards or whatever, you cannot hear it or you cannot see it. The right decision is not out. And this has got a basis in the laws also, because the laws say that I can always consult my colleague on a matter of fact, which he may be in a position like a low catch. I have to consult him. And if there is doubt, the law says, if there is doubt, the answer will be not out. So that is backpedaling. What I would want to do is carry the same thing to the third umpire. carry the same principle of umpiring to the third umpire, that he looks at the decision in toto. Regardless of what the field umpire has given, he gives his decision on it. It may be contrary to the field umpire decision or not contrary. And if he given slow-mo cameras, given many views, given the sound effect also and all that, hotspot, he cannot make a decision. It has to be not out. Give him that same scope, not upholding the. I would want to see it that way. My decision has been appealed against. It goes to the third umpire, and his verdict is final, regardless of what the umpire calls. I would like to see it that way. Based on the principle that I'm carrying what I'm doing on the field, carry it to the third umpire's room. I think it should be all right. See, the idea is, given all the help that he has got, all the different kinds of help, he cannot make a firm decision. It has to be not. That's all you have to do.
Harit, on a lighter note, umpire gave a batsman called Law out in that game in Faridabad.
I think the Matt Damon, or what was his name? Not Matt Damon. Matt Fleming. It was Damon Fleming. But it was that swell leg. He asked me, "What do you think about that? What would you have given?" I said, "I would have given that out," and that is what happened. I would have given that not out, and I got given out. No, I told him I would have given that not out. The way it went very fast, and it was very narrow, very narrow. So that said for me, in my mind was clear after that. Yes, we are on to a good thing.
But sir, then why does technology bring so much of controversy?
See, look, it doesn't bring any technology problems in tennis, because there the line calls, they accept what the technology tells them. Here, the main problem here basically is regarding the umpires call के बारे में काफी होता है. And I felt in some decisions, 2 or 3 decisions during the course of this year, technology wasn't properly used. I felt there was a decision. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be critical of an umpire, but the Virat Kohli decision which created a lot of controversy. The straight view of the camera clearly showed an edge, and even when I saw it in proper speed, the deviation from bat to pad was very, very clear to me as an umpire. There was no need for him to go to the sound technician to look for sound and all that. So there, that mistake could have been. So similarly, there have been some others where I felt that technology could have been. After all, it are human beings using that technology.
Yes.
And people also must be educated to understand what the third umpire can do and what he cannot do, because there are certain protocols there. The layperson doesn't appreciate those protocols. भाई उसको ये देखना चाहिए था, वो करना चाहिए था, but वो कर नहीं सकता वो.
I want to ask you a question about bunkering. There's been a huge uproar about the concept being legalized by MCC now as not an offense, so to speak. A lot of uproar with R. Ashwin and some parties saying it should be allowed, some shouldn't be allowed. What is your take as an umpire on bunkering?
I don't see why there should be any uproar about it. Once the bowler starts his run up, the ball is in play. And a batsman, and it stands to reason that if you don't allow a run out, batsman will do anything, stand anywhere. So you have to allow the run out. So there's no question that he's liable to be out run out. And there is no question of the bowler being required to give a warning. If he does it great. He gets a good bit of claps from the galleries, but he's not required to do it. It is the batsman's fault basically that he's out of his ground while the ball is in play. And till the bowler releases the ball, he shouldn't be out. It is he who is acting unfairly, not the bowler. Now, coming to that question, you mentioned that they have legalized it or something. Actually, it is the same thing. What has happened is, earlier also it used to be, there was, as you yourself said, there is a lot of stigma attached to this. So what the lawmakers did was, they put it in the unfair play just to indicate, give a general impression without calling it unfair, that this is an unfair act. It is an unfair act. The title used to be, bowler runs out this thing in the non-striker on his run-up. All used to be the title. In 2000, they changed the title to indicate very more clearly that umpire leaving his, the non-striker leaving his crease before delivery, to put the onus on the non-striker. It is his fault. It is unfair. All right, it is not unfair technically because it is just a matter of run-out. But to give the impression, correct the impression in the minds of people, it is the striker who is at fault. So they put it in unfair. Now a new body of lawmakers have put it out and brought it here. The law remains the same, still liable to be run out. And I'm telling you, the next time it happens, the controversy will also be the same. The same people will be cribbing about it. not fair, not fair. No, the non-striker taking an illegal start is unfair. And we have seen in IPL, some of the batsmen were 2 yards out when the bowler's front foot comes down. 2 yards out. I thought West Indian batsmen, I've got pictures about that. 2 years out. Now, how fair is that? And I think this was commented on by Harsha Bogle in this particular game. This happened in 2 or 3 games. I've got videos of that particular game. And one is Unadkat bowling and the other is some other bowler. And he's just about to release the ball and he's 2 yards out. But that is grossly unfair. And if that is not stopped, yes, if that is not stopped, only the run out can stop it. Nothing else can stop it.
I always wondered how fit umpires need to be because they stand for what 8-9 hours continuously.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And if it is a one-day international, it comes to around 10 hours. 6 hours is the game technically, but you are supposed to be there 2 hours earlier, and then there are other things to do. It is about, and I used to wear in my match as a matter of interest the step counter, and I used to walk in a normal match about 8 to 10 kilometers in a day. You have to be pretty fit, and but not not as fit as a football referee needs to be.
How tiring is it? Have you?
I am not. I was never as fit as a football referee. But you have to be reasonably fit because on your fitness depends your performance later in the day. Start feeling sore and all that. And when that happens, there is fatigue. You have to avoid fatigue because then it can hurt you towards the end of the day. And a certain regimen can be used by umpires to attain that level of fitness. And it's good to be like that. Pre-season or off-season workouts also, walks and all should be. There are certain exercises one can do to remain fit. But આજકાલ the game is about fitness, and that includes umpires also, I believe. And you have to go there is movement in spurts and all that. You should be sufficiently warmed up also, so to say, because a sudden spurt can also cause a cramp, severe cramp in your calf muscles and all that. So you have to be fit. You have to.
I know you since childhood, sir. You were at MIG.
Yes. That. Yes.
So my first question is, when we are practicing at the nets, mostly during the board matches, we often see umpires also follow bowler and batter. So how useful it is?
No, it is useful. The ICC found that useful because more so because what happens is the ICC found that people come from different climates in different parts of the country because of this neutral umpires policy. And anybody coming from midwinter from Australia comes and stands in the sun in India is going to have a hard time. He comes the previous day and starts umpiring the next day. So they tell him that you go and get acclimatized, sometimes even to the extent of 4 days. And when the teams are practicing, because it is all a matter of your getting your eyes used to the glare. The glare is very much different in India than it is in England, and vice versa. It is different. And when an umpire comes from a different country, he needs to do some practice there. Get used to the glare because off the ground the sun can be quite bright, and even the background can be quite bright for somebody who's coming from England in midwinter or even their summer. So they started this practice that, and it was adopted by the BCCI that whenever you go for your matches, you get your eyes used to it. You get acquainted also with the players and the coaches, and there will be some things to talk about. So which is always a good thing, not bad really. So basic idea is to get acquainted with the climate and the environment, and more so when you are going to another country altogether, different weather. But even in India, there is a lot of variance in the weather and conditions of play and umpiring. So nothing wrong in doing that. I think it's a good thing.
As I am a bowler, the bowler point of view, I want to ask one question. Do frequent appeals, though they are genuine in most of the cases, sanction umpire decision making it get against the bowler?
Frivolous appealing will always go against the bowler. अगर genuine है तो ठीक है, we take a genuine appeal at face
genuine
value.
appeal, sir.
Genuine, yes, genuine won't affect it at all. It won't affect any umpire's psyche to say कि भाई ये ज़्यादा appealing करता है, वैसा नहीं. लेकिन आलतू फालतू appealing बहुत लोग करते हैं for no reason at all, and they think that it is going to win them a decision. It doesn't win them anything, and you're right in saying that sometimes it can go contrary to. It happened to be in a Ranji Trophy match. Somehow there was team policy. It was team in a Ranji Trophy match. I won't mention who and what because then you'll guess who was involved. It was team policy to shout for everything. Team policy, the ball misses
Right.
the bat by 4 inches, they would go up allowed. And their coach knew me very well. And he said, उधर से जगह से ही अपील करना, जगह से ही अपील करना, नहीं तो बाहर भेज देगा. I could hear him say that also because I wouldn't want anybody rushing to me. I stopped that very strongly. And you're not supposed to be rushing at the umpire. तो अपील करने का साहब हमारा हक है अपील करने का. मैंने ऐसे बोला भी यार क्या अपीलिंग कर रहे हैं, बोला साहब अपील तो करना गलत नहीं है, ठीक है. Then what happened was that towards the end of the first day, a low catch went to one of his players at the slip. A low catch. And I looked at my colleague. My colleague said, no. It was very low. He said, no. I said, not out. I was the bowler in umpire. शाम को पार्टी शार्टी होती है रणजी ट्रॉफी मैचेस में, तो वो प्लेयर मेरे को बोलता था साहब वो तो मैंने तो कैच दिया था वो वाला. मैंने बोला यार देखो, the credibility of your team today as of now is zero. Who has made it that so? आप लोगों ने जिस तरह से आज अपीलिंग कर रहे हैं, bump ball they used to call for a catch. Bump ball, clear batsman, striker plays it down on the ground and it would go up. How is that? Short leg वगैरह था तो how is that? I said, who has made that credibility zero? Not me. It is you people. आप लोगों ने तो it does affect.
Right, sir.
But it will. किसी का genuine है तो we just fully answer the appeal, not out. But the end of the matter, we are there to do a job. Answering appeals is our job. We'll answer every, but then that when you create that impression, you have to blame for it.
Sir, will you please guide on what precautions need to be taken while doing last hour calculation?
See, last hour calculations, there are many technicalities there. I do not know if you want me to go into the technicalities. There are certain rules given there in the calculations for the last hour, like deduction should always be on the basis of 3 full minutes and all that. And you should always cross-check that the total of deductions and the runs, overs bowled and overs to be bowled should be 20, because that is what 20 is what is prescribed. So precautions तो ऐसे खास नहीं है, except that
Sir,
can elaborate.
Interval is there between last hour interval or innings, and there are 2-3 calculations.
Yeah. In the sense that, see, what happens is, generally speaking, there are actually 3 methods of calculation. One is the deductions method. From 20, you deduct the number of overs bowled, deduct the number of overs for the interruption, and you arrive at this. That is the deductions method. That is always to be used in the case of an interruption in play. An interruption in play, always use the deduction method. But where there is an interval takes place during the last hour, say 4 to 5 is the last hour. After 4 p.m, if I call time, 10-minute break, I call time. Then to decide how many overs to be bowled, I have to do 2 calculations. One is the overs left calculation and the time left calculation. What these 2 methods does is, the methodology, I won't go into the details of the methodology. They may give you different answers. Of the 2, you have to use the higher. So use of this, what it does is actually, if one team has been bowling first, suppose they are bowling fast, then overs left will give you less overs to bowl. If they are bowling slowly, overs left will give you more overs to bowl. But the time left will take care of it. So any speedier or slow bowling on the side of the first team doesn't affect the number of overs that are bowled by the other team. It takes care of that. So at that time, you have to always apply these 2 methods, and whichever method gives you the higher of the 2 has to be used. That is how it works. And the reason for it being that the speedier bowling of one team shouldn't affect the number of overs of the other team. Or the slower bowling, like I said, shouldn't affect the other team. That is what it takes care of.
It will be beneficial if you please explain the latest changes which is to be amended from October 2022.
In the laws October 22, there are a lot of changes made. Most of them are, just to lay emphasis on certain existing points and some minor changes here and there. But there are 3 or 4 which will catch the attention of one certainly will catch the attention of the viewers. Now, the one important change is that in case of a ball being hit for a catch, the striker and the non-striker crossover, no longer is that going to be allowed. They will, of course, cross over. There's no problem. And if that fellow drops the catch, a run out is possible. That's no problem. But if the catch is finished, the not out batsman has to return to his end. As a result of this, the new batsman will always come to play at the striker's end, where the ball was struck. Otherwise, what used to happen if he's crossed over, the new batsman comes to the non-striker's end. So this is one thing that the average viewer will immediately notice, that the new man comes where the ball was struck at the wicket-keeper's end. If that same over is in progress, he will bowl there. There is one which we have found recently, that with the advent of T20 cricket and all that, the batsman goes anywhere on the field to play that ball. We saw in 2011 there was a case of Shoaib Akhtar bowling free hit delivery. He was bowling, so the batsman had no need to protect his stumps. So he went 5 feet behind the wicket to play that ball and scored the boundary. Now, suppose if the wicketkeeper was standing up, surely there would have been a serious clash between the wicketkeeper and the batsman. And we saw recently in IPL in the last 2 years, a stray ball was chased down towards square leg by the non-striker. It was too far away. He couldn't have played it, but then he went for it. Seriously went for it. There was another case also where the striker goes wide of his crease. The ball is a stray ball and wide of the wicket and goes and plays it. He was his entitlement. Now the law says that he has to, his area of play is the pitch, behind also and on sideways also. And if he plays any stroke which takes his entire body out of the pitch area, it is to be called dead ball. It is to be called, no longer can a player the striker go chasing a ball, a stray ball, chasing the stray ball towards square leg or even towards short mid wicket or whatever. They can no longer go it. As it is, I am going to call it a no ball because it has pitched outside the pitch, and if he goes there, he cannot go and chase it. Suppose it has pitched on the pitch and even then goes astray, he has to remain on the pitch area to be able to play. If no part of his body is on the pitch area, it is a dead ball and the game will be stopped. The idea being to protect the fielders, protect the fielders from a marauding striker. He's all hot-headed and he's all for a six, scoring a six. He wouldn't care if a fielder put his hand to it. He will break a few heads. So without waiting for the breaking of heads, they have brought this rule here. In fact, I don't mind telling you that I suggested to them that my idea was basically that behind the wicket he should not be allowed to go. He may go sideways, but they have gone the whole hog, and then even sideways he should not be allowed to go. Even sideways he should not be allowed to go. That's how it was. And coming to some other changes, one more interesting thing that they have made. Hit wicket, as we know it, that if a cap falls off, if the helmet falls off, or the bat falls off, and he's out at wicket. But the law change this year says that if any part of the helmet or any part of his helmet falls off and breaks the wicket, the striker is not out at wicket. That is something interesting. I need to get back to them to ask them why they been thinking on these lines. What prompted them to bring this this particular change? बाकी सब अगर गिर गया, शरीर से गिर गया, चश्मा गिर गया, or he drops his bat or whatever, he's out hit wicket. But if a helmet or any part of the helmet as described in this thing, he is to be ruled not out.
Maybe safety point of view, I think.
Yes, but it is still part of his person as per the laws. But and the law says that any part of his person, if he is detached from his person and breaks it, he's out. The wicket is properly broken. But they made this change this year, and which is something that I think the watching public will immediately notice, and there will be a lot of discussion on it. I don't know if the commentators know about this, or they have to read my book because I am bringing out a new one with the 2022 changes in it. A new edition that should be out in 2 weeks.
We had the privilege of learning all the 42 laws from Sir itself, so it's one of the big privileges.
He was one of my students, yes.
And we got all the inside details about it. Sir, I had a couple of questions. One was about the wicketkeeper. We have seen that if the wicketkeeper dislodges the bails with his gloves or a set of gloves or some part of the till the wrist part, he is allowed to do that. What if he dislodges the bails or breaks the wickets with some part till the arm? Do we still allow that, because it is end of the day a part of a part of his body which is got the ball in his hand? And we have seen things happening, but in fact I have also seen a couple of occasions when the ball was in the left hand, he dislodged the bails with the left hand and the right hand was just touching the left hand. The ball was not actually in his right hand. So what happens in these kind of situations?
See, what happens is if the two hands are together, it doesn't matter in which hand the ball is, and you would hardly have a view of it. and you wouldn't need to call the third umpire for it. But if their hands are together, it doesn't matter if it is there and he breaks it with his right hand. But holding the ball in your right hand and breaking it with your left is not permitted, as you very well know. I hope I was able to make that clear in your class.
Yes.
Now, what happens is another thing is that I don't know if most people know it. If you have the ball in your hand, you can use the whole arm to break the wicket. The whole arm. It is just not the wrist up to the wrist, or of course the wicketkeeper is the whole glove and the whole arm up to the shoulder. The arm is up to the shoulder. So if he catches the ball and falls on the wicket, or he just manages to touch the wicket with his shoulder in the same shoulder, it is out. That a lot of people don't know. In fact, like we said, that a lot of players don't know some of the basic laws. I don't know if how many of you knew this, just as a matter of interest. No. Clayton is shaking his head. How many of you knew this particular aspect?
We always knew that it was through the glove. We
Glove,
never
and
knew that.
a lot of people say till the elbow also. If you push it, nobody says. It happened to me in a one-day international. If you permit me, if I can tell you, I was umpiring a match, South Africa versus India, India versus South Africa at Cochin. Hansi Cronier's last series, and it's the first match in that particular series, the infamous series, so to say. I was at square leg. Sunil Joshi had the short run and slid his bat right through. The wicketkeeper got the ball and accidentally hit the wicket with his elbow. And he did it a second time. My impression at the square leg was that when he first hit it, Sunil was outside. And when his second time he hit it, he was inside. That was the impression I carried. But instructions to us are, as umpires, that if you have the use of technology, use it. So I went this way. Now, the third umpire gave him out. And Sunil, while going, he said, "Sir, uska to elbow laga tha." I said, if you were outside the crease at that time, you're out. So he went away. Ajay Jadeja came in. He had seen the replays. And first thing he asked me, "Sir, वो तो elbow लगा था." मैं बोला, अगर वो elbow लगा था तभी बाहर था तो out है. ठीक है. He said okay, and he put his head down and continued batting. What was happening in the TV commentary box was Tony Gregg went simply hyper. Oh, how can that be out? What has the third umpire done? That is no way this is out. No way is this out. And Ian Chappell was his colleague. Ian Chappell said, no, I think he's got a quiet way of saying things. So he said, no, I think according to me that is out. But this fellow was hyper. I mean, you know how his commentary was. And he also said that, okay, why don't we bring in, we have got two commentators on the Hindi panel who are qualified BCCI umpires. Now we called them in. They came on the air. And unfortunately, both of them said that it is not out, which is very unfortunate, which tells you about the level of knowledge people have. Now, if you do the sum total of the playing experience of all these people, 2,000 matches, first class, I'm sure. And they don't know one basic thing, how to break a wicket to get a run out. So as far as I'm concerned, no former player gets a shortcut to the test arena. This is the general standard. I keep telling people in my entire career of umpiring, if you ask me a question, how many really knowledgeable players you have known, I will stop at 4. Maybe I would be very, I'll have to think hard for a third. There used to be Ashok Pankaj, Sunil used to be pretty sharp, Ravi Shastri used to be, Arun Lal from Bengal used to be very knowledgeable about the laws. But I would have to think very hard about it. So this is how it is actually, unfortunately. Let us hope it gets better. But anybody aspiring, and my idea of imparting knowledge about the laws to players is, see, everybody is going to hang up his boots one day or the other. And if you know a bit about the laws, you're ready to step into an umpiring career. Most people should think in those terms. Learn the laws, ठीक है, अच्छे अंपायर बन जाओगे कभी, लेकिन लॉस के बगैर तो नहीं बनने की ख्वाहिश नहीं रखते. So this is the level I wanted to tell you that happened to me in a one-day international. And to concerning players of so much experience, playing experience, who didn't know something very, very basic, which they do every day, breaking a wicket to get a run out.
Which I feel as a budding umpire, or as looking at umpiring as a career, or not as a career, but as a budding umpire, I feel that law, I mean, if you can clear it for me, is a bit confusing. I'm talking about two cases here. One is a stumping and one is a run out. Okay, according to the new laws, which came around 3-4 years back, if the batsman is trying to dive in and he gets some part of his bat inside the crease, and then by the flow of his momentum, the bat goes up in the air, and then the bails are dislodged, the batsman is supposed to be ruled not out because he had already had some part grounded before, unfortunately, it went up. But in the same scenario, if we are talking about a stumping, if the batsman advances to hit a stroke and if he manages to get back his back leg in the crease and then probably he falls out or he just lifts it and then the bails are dislodged, this is probably the same situation where he already grounded but then he left his legs or came out. Then as per my understanding, the umpires rule him out stumped because he lifted his leg. But as far as the situation is concerned, I feel both the situations are the same, where they already grounded their crease behind the crease, grounded a wicket behind the crease, and then they went out because of the momentum or overfalling. But in both the cases, the decisions I understand are given separately. One is supposed to be ruled not out, one is supposed to be ruled out.
One would be not out and the other out. But there is a distinction there. One is he is moving in the direction or beyond direction of this his wicket and beyond. I'll tell you the reason why they brought that law. And the thumping thing you said was that he is static there and stumbles. He's not moving towards his wicket at that time. He's there, static there, and he stumbles and his foot goes out. It is a different situation altogether. See, what had happened was when we were umpiring, when there was no TV and all that, what would an umpire on the field, square leg umpire on the field do? He would watch the line and the batsman going by, and after that, I'm not going to watch him. I have made my decision. Breaking of the wicket is all here in front of me. After that, I'm not watching him. But TV cameras started catching the batsman. What is running basically is where both feet are in the air. That is basically running is walking is where one foot is on the ground. Running is where both feet are. So he's running across, and at one point the TV camera catches him with both feet off the ground. So he's not grounded behind the crease is what they tried to say. So the laws were changed to say that even if that happens, once he has put his bat down and he's running behind or towards his wicket, and the wicket is broken, you're not to think you're supposed to give him not out. That is how it started. The reason for it was that. And applying the same thing, if it is going in the same direction, he has placed his bat inside and then he loses control over his bat, we have to give him not out. But the other case, that thumping thing, it is not that he's running towards the wicket or diving towards the wicket. That is the difference. That is why that should be out.
If the ball is deliberately padded by the batsman and while ballooning up in the air, it touches the bat of the striker.
Okay.
If it is caught by the fielder, it is given out caught. The same ball, after touching the bat of the striker, crosses the boundary. Will it be given force or it will not be given runs?
That is no boundary. No runs will be allowed of that. No runs will be allowed of that. As you say that if he were caught of that, yes, he will be given out caught. Because the idea is that the basic principle is that he has to suffer all the ill effects of his actions, but he is not allowed to benefit in terms of runs. Out is out. That is his ill effect. He has to suffer that consequence. But in terms of runs, he is not allowed any runs at all. No benefit will go to accrue to him because he has not tried to play that ball. That is the basic idea. Like I can give you another parallel. He has deliberately patted the ball and they take a run. They attempt a run. If there is a run out there, I will allow that run out. But if the run out is not accomplished, I will call him back. So the ill effect has to be suffered, but benefit I will not give him. That is the basic idea of this law. And here also, Clayton, there is something interesting I might tell you. It was in 2002 that I was appointed to umpire at the CCI. Now, Raj Singh Dungarpur had invited MCC, Marylebone Cricket Club and Melbourne Cricket Club and CCI to play a triangular. Clayton remembers that. And I was invited to umpire that match. And just a day or so before that, I had met Mr. John Jamieson, who is an India-born man and very familiar with India. And he was accompanying the MCC team. At that time also, he was also finalizing the open learning manual. And he was a technical person about the laws of the game and all that. So we got naturally, so was I. So we got talking about the laws and all that and some intricate points in the laws. And on the morning of the match, we were where the veranda is, CCI veranda is, and that pathway is just below that. On the pathway, we were just standing and talking about this particular law. Where in that 2004 it was a little ambiguously worded. We were discussing that. Now I didn't know that Mike Gatting and his group was listening to our conversation. Mike Gatting and his group, he come for the with the NCC team, and they were sitting right behind us, and I didn't know that they were listening to us. And while we were talking about this point that the ball hitting the inadvertently touching the bat and going away for runs should be not allowed any runs and all that, it was time for me to go to umpire. And as I moved off, I heard Mike Gatting asking John Jennison. He said, "Jamie, is that correct? What you people were just talking about? Are no runs allowed if that happens?" And he said, Jennison said, "Yes, it won't be allowed. But what if I touch it, hit my bat and somebody caught it? You'll be out." But oh, is that so? Now, just imagine a guy like Mike Gatting, former England captain, over 100 test matches, post-retirement, didn't know this. And this is something we grind into the heads of our novice umpires all the time in Bombay. I was a little surprised myself that Mike Gatting didn't do it. I was a little surprised, frankly.
So the batsman always felt that he was not out when given by a leg before wicket. On most of the occasions, batsmen also displayed their displeasure about their decision. So how to handle this situation and what are the precautions to be need to be taken care while giving LBW?
See, what happens is, since there is a matter of opinion involved, sometimes the batsman feels that, not that always, sometimes he feels that he was hard done by and all that. If it is something like he has edged the ball, which you can easily miss, I can give him some leeway. But if it is about where the ball is going, I'm in a better position. He didn't know enough about where the ball was going to be able to play it with his bat. So, as far as that is concerned, I discount it. You don't react. You just remain firm and see that, and you'll have to go. Sometimes they do it. During our time when we were at the peak of our umpiring, we had no match referee and no disciplinary action and all that. It used to happen. But nowadays, umpires are protected from this kind of thing because showing dissent is noticed immediately and noted by the match referee, and he automatically starts taking action. So you don't, as an umpire, you don't have to do anything. You just do your job. You have given it as you saw fit. You don't have to get allow it to upset you. Also, that is important. How to handle dissent is also an important part of your umpiring education. You will come across it from time to time. Handling yourself after that point of time is what is important for you. So don't be affected by it. You must expect to make a few mistakes once in a while, but just carry on. I mean, if you think you are out, you have given the right, let it remain. Be firm, remain in your position, and he has to go. You don't have to do anything special or worry unduly about it. Just accept that once in a while you will make a mistake. You're never free of mistakes. That is the job you are aspiring to.
It is advisable to speak with players during a match if they are willingly to. And will it help to release some pressure on the umpires?
People talk about pressure or stress on a net this thing group. Somebody said umpire stress of the umpire and all that. What pressure? What pressure? What stress? I mean, why do you assume there is stress in my job, in the job of an umpire? All right, you feel butterflies when you go in for a big important match and all that. You feel there are butterflies in your stomach, and because you care for your own performance. So it is quite natural, just like for any batsman. But there need not be stress. It is not a stressful job. I think it is an enjoyable job. And why do you feel that there is pressure in the job of an umpire? There is no pressure. You just go in, do your job properly, follow certain pattern of action and all that, and it's a job. And there is no pressure there. In my first Ranji Trophy match, I learned this lesson. Let me tell you what it was. I have known Parthasati Sharma. I used to know in Bombay because he used to play for Mafatlal, and 2 or 3 matches I might have done of his in Bombay, A Division, Time Shield, and all that. And I knew him. And he was the captain of Rajasthan in my first Ranji Trophy match, which was MP versus Rajasthan. And when Bharat came into bat, so that was my first Ranji Trophy match. I just went to him. He was the non-striker. I just went to him to just exchange a couple of words. And he used to always carry pan in his mouth, always, while batting. He pointed at his stuffed mouth and said, "Can't talk." Okay, I backed off and I umpired my position. The day went by. In the evening, there were some छोटे matches में क्या होता है party वार्टी भी होती है हमको so we met. Both the teams were there. The umpires were also invited. So Parath actually told me, "Sir, sorry, मैं आपसे तभी बात नहीं किया. I prefer not to speak when I am batting. It disturbs my concentration." It was not just Pan, वो तो बहाना था, but he prefers that nobody comes to chat with him. And the same principle applies to, I think, to the umpire. I took that lesson in my first Ranji Trophy match, and after that, I never would go and talk to anybody, any player. Yes, you know him, you exchange a nod, and if he scores 100, well done, yeah, good luck. जाता है तो good luck. बोल दिया ऐसे pass हो रहा है. You know him, that's all. Hi, इतना. Don't waste your time chatting up somebody or chattering with somebody. You need to concentrate on the game, just as like the batsman needs to concentrate. That was a lesson he taught me, and I followed it ever since. If there's a guy at square leg, the briefest of nods, nothing about his home, no stories, nothing. No, you concentrate on your job, I'll concentrate on my job. That is what I learned. I think I can impart that to you as a budding umpire. Follow that.
How it was difficult when even the establishment might go against you, and how difficult to keep control of in that position. So because it was a very difficult situation, if I understand.
No, difficult situation indeed. Such situations are difficult because where there is some dissent shown and some bad behavior we come across. But then I have never thought of it could have broken my career. I know it because it could have gone against me. Because the manager, when he came in to talk about this, the players refused to leave the field. The particular player was sent off by the umpires rather. He refused to go off, and he said, the whole team will go off." And the manager also came in. One of the first things the manager told me was, "Emma, do you think that what you're doing is right? Because you know very well, no, this will not end here." He said, "This will not end here. You know very well." I said, "Yes, I know it, and we have ordered him off the field for a reason, and everybody saw the reason, and he has to go. What happens if they don't leave the field?" I said, "If they don't leave the field and the other side makes an appeal, I will have to award the match to the other side." So that is how the match ended, with an award. They refused to leave. Then all of them left the field. So इसमें क्या है ना, you have to have a particular attitude of mind. You can't look to be umpiring looking at your future prospect. You can't umpire in a match looking at your, "Arey yaar, how will I take?" I have actually had a colleague telling me in a game, "अरे यार मदन, झंझट छोड़ ना यार, अभी हीरो कप आने वाला है अपने को." Like that. We had a skirmish with the captain of a side, and he's actually telling me not to report because Hero Cup aane wala hai. So I think that is the wrong attitude to have. You umpire for the day. You have to do a job. It is your responsibility to protect the laws of the game. You're the first officer of the law. Don't expect anybody else to do it. And on that day, there were 3, 4, 500 people there at Wankhede Stadium. Had I not taken action, it would have been a very bad impression of me as an umpire, and that might have perhaps harmed me more than anything else. I didn't like doing it, but then I'm in a position where I'm supposed to act as per the law, and accordingly we did. And I'm very, very happy to say both the team manager and the player concerned are good friends of mine, and we have maintained a good friendship and a good relationship over the years, and that is very important. That is very important. They see that I did a job. I mean, it was wrong on his part, so he accepts it. That's all. But the difficulty is that if you're overawed by a star into not doing your job, you would pull up a rank outsider. You will pull up for the same action, and you do not pull up a star for that action. No. I think Sandeep Patil says in his introduction in my book, he says that I was never afraid to give any India player or former Ranji Trophy player out, which I never was, which is true. And he was one of them.
We appreciate in those days, in late 80s, maybe it was a very courageous, it was a very courageous decision. And maybe when the establishment that time was very strong.
Yes. They found nothing wrong in our handling of the situation. Otherwise, I tell my group of students who have attended, I said, when you are learning the laws, be very clear about the procedure that you have to apply when taking action. Because if you're wrong in procedure and the establishment is always on the player side, if you are caught doing something wrong, you are in a fix. It could have been a career-ending thing for me. So I had to be right all along, and they didn't find anything wrong with us. In fact, people supported our action. A lot was tried, but then the authorities supported our action. You have to have that courage. You can't be seen being wishy-washy. No. And the players themselves don't appreciate it. They prefer somebody who's firm and who will adhere to it. The only thing is you need to be consistent. They want you to adhere to the regulations, control the game properly. They look for umpires who do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And looking forward to your next edition, which comes with
Yes,
the
yes,
current.
yes. I have already finished it. I would send it for print because in this particular edition, what I'm doing is the 2022 changes I am bringing out in red so that the new reader now knows that these are the changes. The new changes are emphasized in this particular book and they are highlighted. And it should be out in say 2 weeks' time. I should be putting it back in 2 weeks' time. People who
Thank you,
have
sir.
read the earlier edition, yeah, they found it useful as a learning tool. And in fact, I am bringing out another, which is 1001 plus questions on the laws of cricket, game situations. Multi-choice questions, 1001. Both of them together should be good tools for any umpire learning laws of cricket.
This was really an insightful session, Mr. Singh. You enlightened us on some of the really finer aspects of this game, which is followed by a billion of people in this country. Thank you for being a part of the show. And I'm sure our participants would have got some real first-hand information and hopefully,
I hope they found
cleared
it
with the
useful.
doubts.
Yeah, I thanks to you and Clayton and Midday. Subodh, thanks very much for this session. I enjoyed it as much as I hope you people did.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.